The weekend here, and there's some really interesting astrology going on. The North Node is featured prominently in the astrology of the weekend, which is all about fate and destiny and what's meant for us. But it's interacting with Mercury retrograde and Venus retrograde, which is a pretty unique and a pretty powerful signature. Plus, we're still in eclipse season. So there's a lot going on. Let's take it a step at a time here and discuss the astrology of the weekend of Friday, April 4th through Sunday, April 6th. The first thing that I want to talk about is this North Node interacting with Venus retrograde and Mercury retrograde. And I'm just going to add to our chart here. If you are following along and sort of interested in learning that side of astrology, my hope is that looking at the chart is helpful as we go. And if not, I hope that it's enjoyable as well. My intent is for this to work for everybody. Okay, so this is the North Node here, and this is Mercury, and this is Venus, and they are all, Mercury and Venus are retrograde at the late degrees of Pisces, and the North Node is here forming a conjunction with them. Saturn is really here too, but we'll talk about that in a second. First, I want to just discuss the Mercury and the Venus signature and how it's interacting with the North Node. And that will get me to an explanation for the thumbnail, which was about something about this weekend and leaving it to faith, to fate rather, and to faith. Okay, so Mercury in Pisces and Venus in Pisces are very different signatures. Mercury in Pisces is in its detriment. Mercury isn't really super comfortable in Pisces. Pisces is sort of loose and open and expanding. And Mercury is about communication and ideas. So there's something sort of confusing or hard to grab onto about Mercury in Pisces, right? At its worst, we can feel confused. We can feel as though our ideas are sort of hard to grab onto. At best, there can be sort of a mystical component to this, where the ideas are there just because we can't grab onto them super effectively or in the usual way or in the most straightforward way doesn't mean that the ideas aren't there. So if we allow in a level of surrender during Mercury retrograde, we might just get some ideas that help carry us into the future. Retrogrades aren't bad, they're just periods of reflection, of going back, of rethinking, of redoing. And with Mercury retrograde here in Pisces, there's something really leaning into the surrender side of it, leaning into the letting go of needing clarity is going to help a lot because there is still potent, interesting information for us with Mercury retrograde in Pisces. It's just a little less concrete, a little more difficult to grab onto. Okay, so I'll put the North Node with this in a second, but let's just go through the Mercury in Pisces, and then now let's talk about Venus in Pisces. So Venus, on the other hand, is exalted in Pisces. This is Venus's favorite place to be. So just like Mercury kind of has a little bit of a struggle in Pisces, it's just the opposite for Venus. Venus is exalted here. So the way that Mercury is about those ideas, that thinking, the insights, Venus is about relationships and about feeling and about art and finances in some ways. And so those signatures are a lot more open when it comes to being influenced by Pisces into that expansion, that surrender, that merging with others. there's something incredibly spiritual about Pisces. So Venus does a lot better here than Mercury does. Venus in Pisces is exalted. It's about taking those Venusian themes to another level. It's not just love, it's unconditional love. It's not just care and concern, it's compassion and empathy, right? So we're having all of these deep feelings with Venus retrograde. We may be revisiting past relationships or past decisions in some way, right? Putting Venus and Mercury together, it's like really getting new insights, new information about relationships, about what we love, about what speaks to us, what lights us up, about what we enjoy. And with them retrograde, it's like we're going over the past a little bit. We might find ourselves revisiting past relationships, maybe interacting with some people we haven't in a while, or just revisiting past decisions, past relationships, past patterns in our minds, going over things. There's a real potential this weekend, and this was really true at the end of last week as well, to sort of be going over things mentally. And with the North Node here, let's talk about this because it adds a real beauty to this signature. The North Node is about where we're headed, our destiny, our fate, what we signed up for ahead of time, what's meant for us. Whatever that means to you, however you conceive of that, you can conceive of the North Node, the head of the dragon. It's the sort of destined area in which we're pointing. So for this Venus and Mercury retrograde to be at the late degrees of Pisces and to be acting with the North Node, there's something here about we can't make sense of all of it right now. There's an element of letting go that's needed, an element of acceptance or understanding, surrender. When I say surrender, I don't mean giving up, right? I don't mean waving the white flag and saying I'm not going to try anymore. I mean saying there are some things I don't know right now. There are some things I can't figure out. Maybe I know where I want to go. Maybe I just know where I don't want to go. And to some extent, I don't have to have that all figured out right now. I just have to keep putting one foot in front of the other in the right direction. It's sort of, we might feel as though we're sort of working on things kind of beneath the surface. It can be a little bit heavy, but it can also feel like a release at the same time. So whatever it is that you've been working on, that you've been thinking about, that's been connected to this Venus and this Mercury retrograde story for you, whatever story has been unfolding in your life lately, where can you leave this story to fate? Where can you leave it to faith? I think it's interesting that I misspoke there. Where can you let go of needing to know exactly how it's going to be figured out? There are a few other things that I want to put together in this chart as well. And as we come back, and then we can kind of come back around to this signature, because I just want to add to it because there are other things going on that are really important. For example, we need to talk about this Saturn here really quickly because Saturn is in Pisces too. And this weekend, right now as I'm recording this video, actually, Saturn is really forming a pretty perfect trine. I don't like the way we can't see Mars there. There we go. Saturn is forming a trine to Mars in Cancer. And so this adds more emotion to the feeling of this weekend. We have a lot going on in water. All of these planets are in water. Right now we have the moon in Cancer. The moon will be in Cancer Friday and Saturday, and then Sunday it will be in Leo. And we have Mars basically trining Saturn and these other planets as well. So Saturn and Mars can be difficult planets. They can signify places where we have to get to work or where we need to apply effort, we need motivation, we need confidence. Um, they're not afraid to advance us forward through allowing a bit of a challenge. But when Mars and Saturn are in a trine with one another, there is a lot of potential to get things done, basically. This is an amazing weekend to make things happen. So, as much as there's all this going on beneath the surface, all this mental processing with the North Node and Venus and Mercury retrograde, Venus and Mercury retrograde all together, that's sort of working beneath the surface, a place where we're having to surrender, a place where we're needing to have faith. We're also running around getting a ton of stuff done, right? On the surface. And sometimes that's the best way for that thinking to happen. It's like you're cleaning the house, you're running errands, you're getting work done, whatever it is. But beneath the surface, you're working on this more critical issue. And I think that this is further exampled by the fact that Uranus is involved in this trine. So we have Uranus here basically forming a sextile to each of these planets, which is another harmonious formation. Uranus is bringing in some sudden surprises, some sudden insights. It's like Uranus is adding sort of a little electricity to the sky, a little surprising. It sort of energizes it. So it's like we're running around, we're getting a lot done, we're feeling very productive, we're getting these little bursts from Uranus, these little bursts of insight. And I wonder if they aren't tapping in a little bit to this signature beneath the surface with the Venus and the Mercury retrograde with the North Node. So just coming back to sort of the earlier signatures and everything that we're talking about here, I'm going to lose these. It's actually hard to write on the chart today because there's so much that we're talking about that it's like I need to see the whole thing. It's very exciting. And I have more actually that I'm continuing to add here as we go. I'm still more I'm talking about, but I guess basically there's so much water. You know, if we just kind of back up from this chart and look at it real quickly, what you would notice is this Aries Pisces energy. We haven't even talked about Aries yet. Pisces, though, we have. So with all of this water energy, it can feel like a lot of emotion. But sometimes emotion is really beneath the surface. You know, it makes me think whenever, you know, that water element, sometimes I think about like ducks or, you know, when a duck is swimming on the water and looks so peaceful on the surface, but underneath the legs are going. I almost feel that energy for this weekend. We're moving through things, we're getting stuff done, but then beneath the surface, there is a lot of activity, a lot of mental activity. But we're making sense of things. And I guess what I want to say here about the where can you leave it to fate is letting go of trying to figure it out might actually help to get more insight right now. Kind of just instead of hanging on to it too tightly, whatever this story is that you're working on, allow yourself just to feel about it. I think Venus is a better place to lean into than the Mercury. If we try to overthink things right now or overplan, it's not really going to work that well. But if you just lean into experiencing your feelings around it, more insight could rise to the surface. I think it's also important to mention that Mars and Chiron are in a square. So there can sometimes be a little bit of hurt, wounds being triggered around this. So we just have so much going on. We're also still in the eclipse energy from when we had the solar eclipse on the 29th of March. I have a video about that on my channel. I'll attach at the end of this video to some other relevant videos for right now as well. There really is so much going on. But that suggests the fact that we're in this eclipse energy, that there's a lot happening in the collective. There's a lot happening in the world. There's a lot going on around us. A lot changing, a lot moving. So in my horoscopes, which are up now for April, best read for your rising sign, I get into this Pisces Mars trine a lot more, and I go through it by your house and sign. You might be interested in that. You know, we have Neptune newly in Aries here as well, coming into a sextile with Pluto. That sort of suggests as well, there's a lot changing. There's a lot changing in the world. You know, everything that's going on with these outer planets. We're in a real, when we back up from our own individual lives and look more at what's happening in the world around us, we're in a real sort of era shifting moment. And that's just real obvious with sort of the undercurrents that these outer planets are showing us as they move and change and shift signs. So get a lot done this weekend. Let go of the story a little bit. Where can you just leave it to fate? Where can you trust and know that the North Node is here working with you too? That what's meant for you, you don't only have one chance. It comes back around the dial. That somehow you're on the path you're meant to be on. That somehow it will work out. We have to have plans and we have to do the best we can to move things forward, but it's also okay to release a little bit, to surrender, and to leave it to fate, to trust the world, to trust the people around us, to trust in life. And that's not always easy, but I think that doing that also allows us to relax our nervous systems and to be in that thrive mode instead of that survive mode. And through that, we might be able to come to solutions that much more quickly, that much better, and in a way that really supports us for everything we are looking for going forward for ourselves and for others. So I hope that made some sense. And I hope that you have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for being here. Check out those horoscopes on my channel, and I will attach some other videos that are relevant to the current astrology here as well. And yeah, thank you very much for being here. Have a wonderful weekend. I will be back again soon.